Hello, ladies and gentlemen. The Novaflares were just confirmed by Hoyo themselves, posted on social media, to be Firefly, Whoa, Seal, and Welt. Now, I've already made a few videos on what I think these characters, Novaflares, are gonna do, and whether or not they quote-unquote deserve it. The only one I didn't really say anything about is Seal. I do think Seal is gonna be probably a filler DPS for Asheville, in my opinion. Could be wrong, but we'll see how that goes. Right. However, the main thing I want to tackle in this video is the insane double standard there is when it comes to these Novaflares, and to try and explain to people that Novaflares that HSR do aren't only specifically to buff older weak characters with no benefit, right? Because this is now obviously making the rounds again of, does Firefly deserve a buff because she's already incredibly strong? And the funniest part about this is the fact that Dot somehow goes under the radar when it's actually Dot who has been getting shilled the most and is about to get shilled even more so as compared to Firefly, right? To put it into perspective, we got Nova Kafka, right, in 3.4. Kafka becomes exponentially stronger. I believe the E1 also got buffed. On top of this, she can now use Tutorial. Doesn't even need a signature Lycone anymore to achieve really good performance, right? Next, we have Heislands. Heislands was such an insane buff to Dot. It's basically the equivalent of what Dahlia did for the break DPSs in Firefly. Right, so you have Nova Kafka, you have a Dahlia equivalent for Dot with also really strong vertical investment, by the way. However, not only this, they then get Cyrene, right? A lot of Dot's best clears against endgame content still uses Cyrene because Cyrene is really good when paired with Heisland. However, not only this, they then also got Nova Swan. Right, so now Swan gets Nova'd. It's now a triple Dot team that is competitive with the Cyrene one, or you can run it sustainless and make it even stronger than that. But wait, it doesn't stop there. Whoa Novaflare doesn't benefit break at all. You know who it does benefit though? It benefits the Dot team. They love energy. They love attack buffs. Huohuo's early E1 investment that gives the entire team a speed buff, guess what? They also love that, right? So now, Dot's sustain teams are likely going to be significantly stronger than they ever were previously. But it doesn't stop there. There is now a leak possibility that in the next batch of Novaflares after this one, Sunday and Jiaoqiu are in them. So if they make Jiaoqiu a sustain, like a lot of people have been theorizing, then he would probably be a Dot sustain who is best in slot for the Dot team. I'm not trolling. This team has gotten directly or indirectly buffed like 4 to 5 times in the past year, right? 4 to 5 times. Actually, no, it's closer to half a year. And nobody complains about the fact that this team is still receiving more and more buffs, while at the same time having some of the best early verticals for a team in the entirety of the game. Why? Double fucking standards. This shit is embarrassing. And once again, this isn't me saying that other characters don't deserve a buff before Firefly, or other characters don't deserve a buff before this. I'm not saying that. However, people's stupid ass double standard when it comes to Firefly hate is genuinely some of the most embarrassing shit this community has ever done, right? Novaflares are meant for making Hoyo extra money off of older characters, and that is it. If you look at every single Novaflare they've done so far, it has been to shill them to a new team, right? You have Nova Kafka, obviously for Heistlands. You have Nova Swan, obviously for Dot. You have Nova Sparkle. You buff both Archer and mainly Sparksy main DPS team. On top of this, you have Blade and Jing Liu. You turn them into HP scalers to sell people Tribby and Hyacine more. You had Silverwolf. Although this was probably the only one without a specific DPS in mind, they fixed a lot of the glaring issues in her kit, and depending on the situation, she can be best in slot for certain DPSs, such as Archer, right? Or even Acheron, or especially at E2, she is a definitive best in slot for Acheron because every attack on enemies will generate a debuff, which is a stack towards Acheron, which makes frequent attackers alongside E2 Silverwolf like Tribby incredibly fucking strong for her. Then you also have these upcoming Novaflares. Whoa Novaflare is going to massively benefit as a filler sustain until they get their premium one in Elation teams. However, once again, this is also a massive buff to Dot teams. This is a massive buff to probably Silverwolf. This is a buff to Aggie. You look at Seal. My current speculation is that she is being shilled to likely be a filler main DPS for Ashvale, right? And this Firefly buff is obviously for them to try and resell Dahlia on rerun, because if you guys would remember, Dahlia actually had one of the worst selling patches for a character of old time in HSR. So people who skip Dahlia are now going to be more incentivized to get her, because before it was like, I don't want to invest into Break. Firefly is really fucking weak, right? Her base kit is garbage without Dahlia, so it's like a 2-in-1 package. She isn't strong enough for me to justify it. But now that you give Firefly Novaflare, people would change their mind, plus her early vertical investment is better, yada yada yada, right? So I hope people can understand these Novaflares aren't for buffing the weakest characters in order. And to be honest, it's not like most people don't get this. It's just that most people are purposely dense and they're just agenda pushing because their favorite character isn't getting buffed instead. For example, these people, quite often I'll see on social media, why isn't Acheron getting a buff, right? Why isn't, what's it called, Fei Xiao getting a buff? Like, what is this double standard? You know what I'm saying? Like, shouldn't you be advocating for buffs for like Argenti, for Dill, right? For Jing Yuan, the significantly older characters who didn't even get the little bit of teammate shilling those 2.x ones did? It's a just stupid thing that this community is doing because they always want to blindly hate on Firefly. Once again, it is so fucking embarrassing. Firefly is going to get a Novaflare whether people like it or not. Novaflares are not for just randomly buffing characters without any, plan in mind from Hoyo to make more money from them. Firefly is like their biggest seller in the entirety of the game and their most popular female character. Who could have seen this coming? Phenon is probably also going to be one of the first DPSs from the Chrysos heirs to get buffed as well, right? Because he has literally the exact same bullshit base kit issues that Firefly does that'll probably show themselves to be really annoying once we get late V4 or early V5. I guarantee you, because he's just that fucking popular and he's that easy to buff. They'll have absolutely no issues buffing this guy versus a majority of the other Ampho DPSs who are significantly weaker than him. That's just how it fucking works, right? Love you all. Hope you have a great day. Hope you have a great night. Peace out.